We're told that the exit strategy isn't even going to be starting, really, until to come into form until Easter in early April. And even then, moving into very toughest Tier 4 restrictions and local restrictions continuing. And who knows, for many, many months. Is that the right strategy for the government?
Well, look, the first thing is I've never believed, I think I may even have said on your programme, I never believed this mid-February date. It was always nonsense. Look, two things. Firstly, of course, you're right. Other illnesses, deaths from other illnesses and other diseases is spiked rather more sharply than COVID has. But then that's because we're in the middle of the winter. I mean, COVID is a very seasonal disease. It hits people with weakened immune systems, and that happens to many of us in the winter. So the likely recovery date, seriously, is more like May. It's certainly after Easter. My hunch is it's May. Look at last year. Look at when the death rates really came down. They came down a bit because of lockdown, but they mostly came down because of the onset of summer. The sunshine starts, people's vitamin D levels go up, their immune systems improve, and the death rate drops away. I'm sorry to say, I think we're going to see high death rates for quite some time. I mean, they'll hopefully fall off a bit in a couple of weeks with infection rates going down. But nevertheless, I fear we're going to have high death rates really until a combination of the vaccination and summer as next year comes around, basically.
The trouble with this, of course, is, again, the vaccine rollout has actually been, I think, a lot better than many of us had feared or expected, although it has been slowing down in the last few days. Some concerns about the supply, particularly the Pfizer vaccine, but we're needing to be hit 360,000 jabs a day to meet that target of the 14 million most vulnerable by the middle of February. And actually, at the moment, we're only about 250,000 a day in recent days. So there are some concerns there. But again, the government, keeps ramping it up, over the week. So there's a lot of hope as well. But if we are relying on the vaccine, the evidence that's coming out of Israel is showing protection from one of the Pfizer jabs alone is really only about 33% and not the sort of odd 90% that the British SAGE and others have think that it might be. That means that we may see people not having full coverage for quite a long time as those jabs are rolled out to as many people. But also, if the vaccine, and we don't know yet, actually doesn't affect the infection rate, we're still going to see people who are younger who are not dying but are going into hospital. We're still always going to have the infection rate, the R rate, the struggling hospitals as the reason / excuse for us not to have our country, our lives, our everything else reopened. We could be doing this for months and months and months on end, and as soon as we hit autumn this year, with or without a vaccine, with or without a mutant strain, we will see this endemic virus resurge again. We're going to be back doing this again next year. What is going to stop this becoming the new normal and us never, ever, ever going back to our old lives?
Well, I don't think that will be the new normal. I mean, the first thing to say is, I've been pretty critical of the government throughout the COVID exercise, but I think on the vaccine they do deserve significant congratulations. And let's not kid ourselves. This is a difficult chain process, and governments are not very good at this. If you were, I don't know, people who run chain processes like supermarkets, you get your milk, you get it out the cow, you put it into a container, you cool it, you then send it off for pasteurization, you then send it off for packing, you then send it off to the distribution center, you then send it off. That's the sort of thing we're doing with these vaccines. And it's a complicated process. One link breaks the chain, and so they're doing a good job of that. Now, I am expecting the government to keep the pressure up on vaccination right through the summer. So that when we get to the other end of summer, we're talking close to herd immunity levels, if not actually at herd immunity levels, in that direction. And that we've got to get to a point. Boris has got to get us to a point by late spring, as I say, about May, when you can turn around and say, no more lockdowns. All right? That's an incredibly important point, and that will only happen if they they keep their foot flat on the floor on the accelerator on vaccination, because it's the only strategy they have now, I'm afraid. And if they do that, then there'll be a point in late spring where it says there'll be no more lockdowns at all, and at that point the economy will start to recover.